Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady. We're very blessed in our community to have so many good experts, and Katie has been in our community for a while. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you guys Katie Ruzin, and thank you, audience members, for tuning in. Katie, thank you for setting this time up to be here and telling us a little bit more about your topic. So, parents and parent entrepreneurs, even, please stop multitasking and let's just pay attention because what Katie's about to tell you is pretty important. So, Katie, floor is all yours. Let us know a little bit more about what you do and how you got involved doing it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. So, I am an educator. I taught in the classroom for about 15 years. And then when I left, I was looking for different ways to educate people. So, I realized there was a dearth of information about finding what you're interested in and finding a career that you would like to do rather than just finding a job. So I developed a career curriculum called Student Career Insights, and it's three parts. So part one is called Explore, and you're going to find out a lot about who you are first. So what are your skills? What are you interested in? And then once you have an idea of what you're interested in, then you start looking for options because there are thousands of jobs out there. We have no idea what they are. And so we start planning a path because it'll probably change. We just want to have an idea. And then the second part is called Equip, and it's all about interpersonal skills everyone needs to be successful. So things like emotional intelligence, how to talk with people, how to avoid conflict and resolve it if you need to, as well as making wise decisions and just all kinds of other things everybody's going to need. And then the third part is called Engage, and it's about how to engage with the professional community. So, writing resumes, learning interview skills, and learning how to network.
I wish I had this when I was going through high school. It's like I had to do trial by fire to
Yeah.
figure these things out. Okay, very cool. Katie, you've done this. So, what's the earliest age for kids to actually start picking up these skills and tuning in for these information, and for parents to
Well,
have it on their radar?
yeah, the basics are really good for middle school because it seems like a lot of people these days want middle schoolers to know what they're going to do, and they don't. So having them start to explore things can be really handy. And then also the interpersonal skills. Puberty is a great time to start thinking more about how you interact with the world. So it's the actual career part is aimed more towards high school or even young adults that have already gotten a college degree and still don't know what they're going to do. So it's really just people looking for how to help themselves in the future.
Beautiful. And I love the fact that you mentioned middle school because I think most of the parents of teenagers understand this, that once they really hit that heavy teen years, there's not a whole lot that you can kind of do. They're still listening, but it's so much easier if you can kind of squeeze it in that last minute during the adolescent years. So I
Right.
appreciate that. Very cool. Now, I know that that's unfortunately not how humans work. Meaning that usually it's the senior year or something, or there's an issue and they're coming to you all panicky about what do we need to do, or there's a problem or a challenge. So, what are the typical challenges and complaints or concerns that people come to you? What do you hear, basically, the starting point?
I mean, the first one is I have no idea what I want to do. Do I want to go to college? Do I want to? I don't even know. My parents want me to go to college, but I'm not sure that's for me. So, really, just taking a step back and thinking about what you want. And some people still don't know. So, then again, looking at all the options. Everything should be wide open at this point in their life. There's no reason they have to choose a job or a career or a path right now. They just need to be open to whatever life throws them and learn to be okay with being uncomfortable because that's another really important life skill.
You mentioned something right now that made me think a lot of families that have education going generation after generation in their past, they naturally assume that, well, my kids are naturally are going to go to college, right? So do you have any words of advice for them as far as, because if sometimes parents get this inkling that, you know what, maybe my kid is not college material. So what are some of your words of wisdom on that?
I would say that we all have dreams for our little babies. And as they get older, we have to make sure that we're adapting those dreams to their needs and their wants, which can be really hard. But it's setting them up for success, not setting them up for failure because we're holding them to our standard when they could be completely different. So be open, listen, and let them choose.
Now, you mentioned that one of the common things is I have no idea what I'm going to do. So naturally, I'm assuming that they got to that point because of whatever circumstances or reasons. So, what are some of the things that our adolescents, our teenagers, and young adults need to understand about themselves? What do they have to change about themselves to start moving in the right direction?
It's
Is
not so
that
much it's not so much change as learning about and being honest with yourself. So a
perfect?
lot of people, a lot of teenagers in particular, really want to make sure they're fitting in with a group. And so a lot of them tend to like push back themselves, which is part of the reason through high school and college, we're always talking about learning who you are. So really it's more about accepting who you are and the paths and options that leaves open for you.
Yeah. Okay. So that being said, what are your tips for parents as well as for kids? If they're listening to this, what would you want them to do to take action in moving in the right direction?
So sometimes I feel like a broken record, but it's so hard for adults sometimes to let go and trust our kids and support them in whatever they choose because we might think it's crazy, but if that's really what they love, then they need to try it. And for students, we need to listen to the adults' advice. They've been through a lot of stuff and they have valid things to say. So take what they've said and then, apply it to your life. Don't just dismiss it because they're my parents. And just everybody just has to be open-minded and willing to fail because everybody fails. And it might come as a surprise. You might start feeling it as soon as you take a path. But the whole thing is just being open to your life, learning from your mistakes and failures, and being okay with that, and just keep moving forward.
Katie, you said something that's really important as far as being open to fail, because that is not the model of schools, and those people who are academically oriented are terrified of this. But I really, what you're describing in this phase of life, with careers and choosing your path, uh, failure has to be part of it because that's how real life is.
Yeah.
So. That's a really important point that you brought up there for our kids to really understand that, not everything works like the classroom setting and a test. So you learn from mistakes and you have to allow room for that to exist, basically. Very cool. All right. So what about young adults? People who have chosen career paths and somehow they've found out that, maybe this is
Yeah.
not where I wanted to end up.
That's totally, completely normal because once you start studying something, you might realize that's actually not what I enjoy doing. So many people choose a path as freshmen or sophomore, and then they realize by the time they've taken some of the beginning classes, that's really not what they want to do. And they can end up in completely different ways. One of my really good friends as a child and growing up, we went to high school together. Everybody was like, you are going to do amazing in math and science because he was really good at it. And he's like, no, I want to do the social sciences. And they're like, what? You're crazy. So he knew that ahead of time, but some people go in there and then make this discovery and we're afraid to change. And you can't be afraid to change because otherwise you're setting up for yourself up for failure in the long term, which is much harder to bounce back from.
Um, Is there a time, as in like how long it takes for people based on your experience to kind of find their way? I know sometimes it changes, but can they expect to do this transformation or figuring thing out in 6 months, 2 years, or have you seen
No.
it? Nothing. Okay.
Everybody has their own journey. I knew I wanted to be a music teacher from a young age. And my dad has done lots of things, but for most of his adult life, he's been an entrepreneur. And so he said, well, let's talk about what you're going to do when you stop teaching. And I'm like, You are crazy. I love teaching. I will never stop doing it. And then lo and behold, life happened. So I found a different way to continue educating because that's what I love. But if you'd asked me even 10 years ago, I never would have been where I am right now.
In other words, the sooner you start, the better, because we don't know how long it's going to take, but
Yeah.
we want to start right away.
Yeah.
Very cool. I definitely can vouch for this. I know that as I was going through my undergrad, I had difficulty picking a major. And it was, we laugh and giggle about it, but the reality is that for the person going through this is very troubling to not really know what your future holds for you. And so it's important for us to know that there are people out there available that can support you and help you down this path. And you don't have to do all the heavy lifting by yourself. So I appreciate, Katie, what you do. And I also want to tell the parents that children who are neurodiverse tend to have more of this presented when the time comes. So I want you guys to be aware of this, that let's be proactive about this. Let's start asking, like Katie said, about the kids, what their wishes, their dreams, how they see themselves growing up, because that starts the process, and we want to nurture that spirit. So Katie, how can people find out more about you, what you do, and the support that you provide for that group of people?
So my website is www.studentcareerinsights.com, and it's in the chat. I'm also I'm also still doing things in multiple directions. So I'm also working on educational leadership and teacher professional development. So that's my actual company, KR Insights. And, I pretty much just, if you want some help, if it has anything to do with your life and your direction, then contact me because I'm ready to help any way you need it.
So, for those young adults that might be a little bit more experienced and have actually gone through the process and they have had children and now they're trying to rediscover their identity and what they want to do next, do consider having a conversation with Katie as well, because oftentimes the world becomes very different in 10, 20 years when we raise kids and then we want to go back. Things have moved on and we want to make sure that we fit in the right place. So let's
Yeah.
do it better the second time around, right? So, Katie, thank you so much. Audience members, please make sure that you go to the description box below and check the details. Katie has generously provided so many different resources and links for you guys, and I have all of those listed in the description box. So make sure that you do connect with Katie, and we do want to make sure that you understand the importance of this action. It is important to role model the behavior for the children, that it's okay to ask for help, that we don't have to have all the answers and we don't have to do all the heavy lifting ourselves. And also, the world is not a scary place, meaning that we should strive to connect, and there are good people in the world wanting to make it a better place. So, Katie is one such example. So, do make sure you check those details out. And if you haven't already done so, click subscribe on the channel. Make sure that you join us so you get notified of all the experts like Katie that come here, share their expertise and their gifts with you as well. Now, before we finish, Katie, any final words for our audience members?
I mean, growth mindset. Just be ready to accept anything and learn from it. And if your expectations aren't met, then figure out why and keep moving in a different direction. It's all about being flexible and learning.
Beautiful. Well said. Such wisdom there. I appreciate it. Thank you, Katie. Until
Thank
next
you.
time, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.